Let us start now. Welcome to our Masters Study Show. Hualien Dharma team and brothers and sisters around the globe. To Saturday Hualien Dharma Talk. A very good morning. Let us start the session for today. This morning, I would like to share a short extract from Master Person sharing on your voluntary morning assembly dated 11th of August. To really repay the grace of our parents, we must make use of this body to do good deeds. Believe strictly in the law of cause and effect. So good things and good cause to reap good fruits and blessings in the future. This is the best way to repay our parents' grace. Do not entangle in interpersonal conflicts. Do not take issues with people matters and give rise to ignorance. Do not harbor ill will with those we displease of and keep it at heart. Be understanding and open-minded instead of getting attached to it. It's not easy, but Master taught us wondrous remedy for spiritual fruit. That is, be understanding, be grateful, be accommodating, be content. If we practice it, we would definitely be able to form good affinity. Thank you, the Master's teaching. Now, let us turn our sincere prayers into the 10 directions. May the Hualien be free from disaster and peace prevails in the world. Let us sing the prayer song with sincere piety.
In my heart, I feel deep gratefulness. All my heart is filled with sincere prayer. From all corners of the world, let us join our hearts and pray for a world of harmony and peace. From my heart, I pray. May we join our hands, our hearts as one. Spread the seeds of great love, nurture wisdom evermore. Let us fill the world with hope. In my heart, I feel deep gratefulness. May all the Buddhas know my prayer. All united with one heart, let us end our hate with love. May there be no suffering hereafter.
May all minds be clarified, may there be peace in the community, may there be no disaster in this world. Let us together pray for universal love and compassion and blessing. With loving respect, gratitude, and confidence, let us wish every person in our lives a healthy body, an enlightened mind, and a total fulfillment in universal love. Now let us expand this consciousness to include every person in the world, every being in the universe. Let our unified love make this world even better. Let us all immerse ourselves in the joyful embrace of universal love. Before we hear the individual sharing, let us invite our masters to lead us in paying homage to Buddha. Let us pay our respect for these teachings and explanations to the Buddha and Master Ching by making peace in Japan. Please guys, come together. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. And a bow to our beloved Abode Masters who could join us today. Yeah, today we have sharing from Sister Su Ching, planting a seed that spans 2 generations, and followed by Brother Joe Huang. So before we start, let us hand over to Sister Su Ching for the weekly summary. Yeah, Sister Su Ching, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Let me share this. Okay. So greetings from Bangkok. I'm here with my family. It is 1 hour behind, so it's only 5:27. Okay, last week we had Brother David. 4 questions for Brother David early Saturday morning last week. Thought-provoking and genuine, Brother David's opinions we did seek. First was how to suppress anger when it is human to feel. How do we navigate unperturbed, dealing with life's ordeals? Brother David said, when we realize that temper is a form of temporary insanity, and that temper creates animosity and destroys affinity, then we will control what we can a little bit at a time. Smile and fake it until you make it. Nothing is impossible to climb. Question 2 was about the difference between the inherent human and intrinsic Buddha nature. Brother David explained that we are all born with certain carried forward characters from our past lives to this life, but generally a new life does not carry many afflictions. The company we choose to keep is the main determination. In truth, sentient beings are all Buddhas that have not yet been enlightened. If we seek wisdom, the knowledge is there to be experienced and learned. Question 3 was how to sustain a good thought, since a single thought can pervade the universe. Brother David said to sustain a thought needs work and time to rehearse. That is why we choose our Tzu Chi activities to help us sustain and not let all our hard work to maintain good thoughts and deeds be in vain. The last question was about how we can maintain Dharma in our heart, life after life. Knowledge is easy to forget, but to incorporate into our bodies, we must strive. There are no shortcuts in Buddhism. No one can sign up for the express class. Consistency is the open secret, and diligence is a big and compulsory must. So that's Brother David, and then we had Brother Joe. Brother Joe was talking about diligence in Buddhism and what prolonged cultivation means for us beyond the aphorisms. Human beings are such that we do not have the propensity for long-term diligence. We are only more inspired to do things for others, no matter our intelligence. Without inspiration, most of us will crumble under pressure and be more willing to forego long-term efforts altogether. The problem for losing that diligence cannot manifest in the short or mid-term, but losing momentum is something few of us can recover from. Master is wise and has created things for us who are not strong-willed. Programs and charities are designed for us to build our characters and habitual tendencies so that we may be on a path to mastery. The Tzu Chi way is transparent to all without hidden mystery. When people arrive at a checkpoint, they often think that they are done. However, Buddhism is a lifelong journey designed for the soul in the long run. Okay, so that's one sharing. Let me see. Or a bit. My mother's on. But hold on now. Let me find my slides. Okay. Today is a bit special. This is my mom. And the title that I chose was Planting a Seed That Spans 3 Generations. For those of you who know me, I have been in Tzu Chi since 2018, but in truth, I've been a donor for more than 20 years, and that's because of my mom. So my mom started in Tzu Chi, and I'd like to share her story. And now my daughter is in Tzu Chi University in Hualien taking psychology. She has 2 more years to go. So this is my mom. Her name is Kang Lei Ann. If you go to Penang, in McAllister Road, where the Tzu Chi building is, those of you who are fans of Avatar, The Last Airbender, my son says it looks like the air temple. She will be there, and she will be known as Miss Kang. So if you go there and ask for Miss Kang, you will see her. She's born in Penang, worked in Penang, lived in Penang all her life. Never even my mom is quite a homebody, and Penang Island is where she calls home. So even the thought of going to the mainland, which is Seberang Perai, to work, really would not resonate with her very much. Her father is Hakka, and my grandmother is Nonya, and she only had a sister, which was who is 3 years younger. My aunt is now in the US, but she's here in Malaysia for the moment. So this is a very special picture because it captured the time before my aunt was born. These are my grandparents. That's my grandfather, who I think I looked a lot like, and my grandmother. This is unique because during that time, my grandmother was considered Huan Peng Lang. That means the Huan is barbaric, actually, you know how Chinese use those words. And my grandfather is Sing Ke Lang, a new Chinese that has been to Penang. So you have the old Chinese and the new Chinese, and a couple of such would be rare. So that is my grandmother and my grandfather. And then when my mother was 11, tragedy struck. This is important because this event is important because my mother lost her mother when she was very young. So it was, my mom was 11, my auntie was 8, and my grandfather had like one tragedy after another that year. You can see the anguish in his face. So for a long time, my mom was living with a relatives. Actually, it was my grandmother's brother's wife's sister. That's who she was living with. Because my grandfather remarried, and my mother stayed away from the family. So this was my mother after losing her mother. You can see that this is just a little girl a bit lost, without parental influence. And she always felt that she needed a guide. And at that time, I guess there wasn't, most Chinese families, we tend to be just following things that we do without really knowing why. So even if we called ourselves Buddhists, we didn't understand what the teachings of Buddha is. So this was important and pivotal because when the time came, then and when my mom had found Master Cheng Yan, she knew that this was something that she was looking for all her life. So this is me and my mom. And like typical of everyone, she just followed where life flows. She got married and she had children, and that was my brother and I. She was working in a bank all her life. And she is fiercely loyal and hardworking, one bank for the entire time, 30 over years. And when my brother and I left for Singapore and KL respectively, my brother went there to work and I came to KL to study. My mother had a lot of time. So she was telling me that she came home to an empty nest and she said, I have to do something with my life. And that's when she thought that the calling at that time was take a Mandarin class. So again, back to what Master has always said, when it's right, just do it. Just do it and not superficially. My mother is really, really diligent. She really continued even when all the students left and she was the only one. And she showed up even when the teacher didn't show up. So there was no more class because there was just no more students and the teacher even lost the will to teach. So what she did was, I remember going back, the time I was still studying, she would be ironing her clothes and her Mandarin lessons would be playing. She would be playing in cassettes. And then she would take music, like all Mandarin songs. She would look at the lyrics and she would diligently write. A friend of mine visited Penang at that time and bought her an English, Mandarin, Chinese dictionary, and she still holds that till today. So that's how diligent my mother is. Later that learning in Mandarin would prove to be useful, but at that time it just felt right because she was still working then, and Tzu Chi hasn't come into her life yet. She took the voluntary separation scheme. At that moment in time in banking, generally a lot of processes started to be automated, and a lot of banks were offering the VSS to their staff. And my mother decided after more than 30 years, it is time for her to leave. But what was she supposed to do? It so happens, and this is affinity, definitely, Tzu Chi started in Penang. It all started with just recycling. And I remember we were driving to one collection center and I was taking newspaper out of the trunk with my mom. And my mom was just telling me, you know, there is this group of people and they're doing such good work. And eventually I would like to be able to contribute. So that was her conversation with me. So what happened then? My mother was doing a bit of work with counseling. She was a banker all her life, but she does a little bit of bookkeeping. And I guess that's where the influence was for me to be an accountant. So she said, if I'm doing work for counseling, surely Tzu Chi will be, can find some use for me. So initially when she went to Garlic Road, where the dialysis center was, it was really mainly to ask whether there was any opportunity for her to help out with doing the books. But they made her write receipts instead. And she was, I remember her telling me, I have a lot of things to offer, but I'm just writing receipts after receipts. But then the biggest opportunity came when the Jingsi Cafe started. And the books came from Taiwan, and they needed somebody who was bilingual to be able to translate. And that's when my mother knew the skills that she had honed for some time now became an asset to see. So that was something that she enjoyed very much, setting up the cafe. So during breaks, I was still studying. My mother would be telling me about Tzu Chi, how she helped out with the cafe, the translations. And over time, even when I started work, she started telling me about home visits, and she was in charge of palliative care for the moment. This is what she told me about palliative care, and she goes to homes of people who are terminally ill. She says, as you become friends with her, slowly they die. And she was telling me, for her, it's a bit of learning because she lost her mom when she was 11. So the concept of death had always been frightening for her. So this was her chance to learn to accept and let go. So she started introducing magazines to me, the Tzu Chi magazines, and she says, the important thing is diligence, and diligence means to do it a little bit at a time. So up to today, I'm still a donor a little bit at a time every month. And she spoke about her visits to Hualien and how great Tzu Chi is. So for me, it was just, oh, my mom is there, just donating. And I hear her stories. And I thought that was it. But really because of Tzu Chi, the seed was planted in me, but it didn't germinate. For the next 20 years, I would just be a donor until my affinity matured. But because of Tzu Chi, my mom said she kind of just drifted into commissioning. She didn't know what Jianxi and Peishun and all that was about. But people said to her, yeah, I think it's high time for you to elevate yourself. So she said, okay. That's kind of like my mom, but here she is. It wasn't really her end goal to be commissioned, but she got there. She made a lot of friends, and afterwards I'll be able to share some pictures with you. And she's constantly learning new things, which really, really is heartening for me, because how do you get your parents to join the new world? With Tzu Chi, I don't really need to influence her or to get her there. Sometimes she's way ahead of me. I remember her telling me, hey, there is this new thing called Telegram. Can you please get on, because I need to send you some pictures. And it really made her feel alive. I remember her telling me one day, when one of my visits back to Penang, she says she thought that her life mission was to raise my brother and I. And but she says Tzu Chi has given her a new meaning to life, which she never thought was possible. And my mom being ever so nice, she said, I hope you don't mind. Really, really, I don't mind. Really giving meaning to life. Life doesn't stop when you retire. Your work and even your children don't define you. But what defines you is your contribution to society. And this is my mom with her group of friends. I'm going to get a bit emotional here and there, so I'm so sorry. Okay. Typhoon Najis happened, and there was seed distribution to Myanmar. Sorry, give me a sec. And my mom had the opportunity to go. So she came back with so many pictures, and she told me, I need to share this, and I don't know how to use the PowerPoint. Can you help me, please? So I did that. I taught her how to use the PowerPoint, and she did the PowerPoint all by herself. And later on, I just taught her once. Later on, she was able to do all this by her own. But one thing great about Tzu Chi is people say you're forced, but actually you're not forced. You're kind of guided into a direction that is right for you. So my mother learning PowerPoint is really a big deal for me. By nature, my mom is very shy, and I think that is the same, and that's true for a lot of us. She was very introverted in her nature, and in many ways, whenever you ask her to do something, she'll say, Maila, don't want, paise. And even when you tell her that, when people tell her, oh, thank you so much for this, and she'll say, Maikong, it's actually, she would rather not be in the spotlight. But that is not her purpose in life. Her purpose in life is in the spotlight. And Tzu Chi has provided that platform for her, rightfully so. And for me, I don't have to pull her into the world. And Yani said that I will cry, and I told her no. she is there with the world. And every time I go back, she's poring over her slides, listening into Zoom and she's calling and inspiring other nurses in Tzu Chi in Penang. So now her scope of work has changed over time. She's more in charge of getting nurses to be inspired, and she's a lot in the dialysis center, and she really helped raise quite a bit of funds for the dialysis patients in Penang. So that's my mom with her friends. And making friends and friends and friends. And you don't know how important that is. Okay, this is the recent visit by the Chief Commissioner of Police. The top picture was something that I really liked, because can you see the intensiveness of the police commissioner, how much he was listening to my mom. And my mom is really passionate. Every morning she would get up and change and get to the center in order to be able to do what she does best. This is a picture of my family. I'm just a small speck. And this is my mom and my daughter on the top. And at the bottom, that's my grandma and her mom and her mom. So we have 6 generations of pictures, but the top is the Tzu Chi line. And we hope that will continue with time. Okay. Now, this is the crux of the thing. My mother's story is just my mother's story, but really, my mother instilled in me a love for gardening. If you come to my house in Penang, you will see that I have a garden, and this is where I grew up. My chore when I was growing up is to weed the garden, to take out all the weeds, and I enjoy it so much. And I will be always out into the garden at 5 p.m. after doing my work and all that. And by 6, I can see my mom walking up the street. She would normally take the bus home. But the love of gardening has a lot of Dharma in it. One of the things that I know is that we are merely planting seeds. When conditions are right, they will germinate. So what we are doing is, all Tzu Chi members, we are all gardeners, and we are just planting seeds. But we are not attached to when the seed will germinate. It will when the time is right. We're safe in the knowledge that that will happen. And it is not a belief, but a science. And how so? Because seeds can lie dormant for many years, until 1, 2, 3, and 4. But more importantly, the 3rd one, when conditions are right for growth. And I see that in me, and I see that in my daughter. And for those of you who know my story of the struggles that I had with my children, then you would, I don't know how to thank Tzu Chi enough. But this is something interesting I found, that seeds can even lie dormant up to 2,000 years, and it can still come alive when the conditions are right. So sometimes when we are a bit frustrated that whatever we intend to see, either through helping someone or sharing a Dharma with someone, and it doesn't seem to work, just know that when the conditions are right, the seed will germinate, and we are just planting a seed. Now, the reason for my sharing is a good friend of mine came back from the US, and her mother was sick. And she was telling me that she's already married and has a family in the US, but she needed to uproot herself, and she has gotten a place in Penang, and she's even moved her children back. And she says she will just work things out with the husband on being in 2 continents and all that, because it is such a privilege to take care of her mom. And she asked about my mom. So I showed her pictures of my mom, and she said, my mother looks very good. And I thought that this needs to be shared. My mom looks good because she has a purpose in life. My mom looks good because there is reason for her to wake up in the morning, and there is so much, the pull factor is there for her to engage in the new world. So Tzu Chi definitely helps. I'm very thankful because of my mother's involvement in Tzu Chi, I really do not have to worry about her mind, her agility, and everything about her, even her health. It's something that is inspired and driven by Tzu Chi. And now me and with my daughter, Tzu Chi has really the power to influence generations with positivity. And the reason why I thought that it was necessary for me to share, and I contacted Sister Su Ching, was really because a lot of us are thinking about our parents and how to make them be more involved and to improve their health and get them excited about life again. To them, recently I had a friend who was telling me about her mom and how her mother had just gone through a hernia operation, and that she has become a terrible patient. Always asking her to do things for her. And my solution is so easy. And I said, get her involved in charity. And actually any charity will do. But if you're looking for an organization with more positivity, then Tzu Chi could be it for you. So a lot of good things begin with one positive action. And that positive action really was my mother getting into the Tzu Chi environment. And I'm really grateful for the power of one. We always hear it a lot. Sometimes I'm thinking, maybe I shouldn't be so involved and all that, but I'm remembering that it was really my mother being involved that currently I now benefit from her involvement, and my daughter is also benefiting from the involvement. So sometimes when we do certain things, we really do not know the positive influence that we have, many, many layers ahead of us. So really, for all Tzu Chi volunteers out there, our job is just to plant many seeds. And if you cannot, then actually one will do. And why is that so? Because the journey of a seed is never to remain a seed forever. The seed will grow and it will become a tree and provide shade for many, many people in many, many years to come. So actually, that is the end of my sharing. I know it is a short one. And I was wondering if my mom was on, because I actually told her to come on. She isn't. Okay. And that is it from me. Actually, I didn't time myself very well, Sister Su Ching. I am so sorry. I still have a lot of time.
I don't know about the rest, but I'm really like teary while listening to sisters. Wow, very intense sharing. Well, the journey of this is more than what I thought. I was thinking Sister maybe will share more on the mother's missions in Tzu Chi Penang, but this is more than that. About her background, her growing up, and how she went through the great difficulties. I think it's very tough for us to understand because we didn't go through those periods. It was really tough, and to lose the mother and having new things that parents into life. But very grateful to Sangren, I think Master Shen Yan for setting up Tzu Chi, and we see how your mother, the light in her face, not only transforming herself, but also the families. And we are most grateful that today we have this chance to hear from Sister Su Ching. Maybe we open to the floor while waiting for Brother Joe. But okay, actually, I was thinking to when to introduce Sister.
I actually messaged my mom and told her to get on. I even prepared her slide for, oh, I know what to do. Okay, I will show you her Myanmar presentation.
Yeah, true, Sister. That very powerful PPT. Maybe you share on her behalf for now.
Yeah.
Next time we hope to have the chance to hear from your mom. Okay, over to you.
Okay. Okay. So this was her. You can see it's 2010, I think. Yeah, 2010 she went there. So it has been some time, but that also goes to show my mother has been working on the PowerPoint since 2010. So this was the title she chose, Witnessing and Suffering to Cherish Our Blessings. See, I taught her how to use the animation. She was like, oh my God, I can do this, I can do that. So I'm only remembering what little she has told me, and this was some time ago. But I think the pictures generally speak for themselves. Yeah. So she had this opportunity and she was wondering, should I go? Should I go? You know, my mother doesn't like to go on tours. She doesn't like to visit places. But the opportunity presented itself, and she knew that if she didn't take it, it may not come again. She was actually quite taken by the Yao Sami, I think that's how it's pronounced. So she had a lot of pictures about that. But you can see that the Tzu Chi influence is there. Okay, so this is it, the vegetarian meals cooked by local volunteers. And life in the temple. My parents are very simple people, even up to today. If you come to my house, you'll see a lot of things that have been there for over 20 years. And I think that simplicity is something that I would love to emulate even moving forward. It is a good thing. Okay. So these are a lot of pictures of life. I remember when my mom came back and she showed me this picture, she says, oh, goodness, you all do not know how lucky you are. So there was, like every Tzu Chi mission, there will be home visits. And she was saying that she would be walking quite a bit over terrains that she never thought was possible. Now, I pay good money to have this experience. I go for hikes and all that, but you get it all in Tzu Chi. In the living quarters, you can see that, wow, it took quite a bit to get there. So this is a typical hut. I think she mentioned something like, you know, if you have a typhoon, just go over. The structures are so rickety and unstable that it can just fly with the wind. But she says everywhere, it's really not what you have, but how contented you are in your heart. And you can see the welcoming gestures in people's faces. So genuine. Oh, I think this is the, I can't remember the name, it's a Shredikong temple in Yangon. Yes. So even over there, they have care recipients, and they were invited. As you featured in Tzu Chi magazine, show you present. Oh, I see. She was showing a boy that he was featured in the magazine. And there was a lot of connections with the locals over there. And translation of the songs that are sung. Distribution of things. I'm surprised that my my mother, a very practical person, so owning pets wasn't something that we had when we were growing up. But after I left, my parents had a dog for a very long time, and this was one that one of my aunts found in a drain, and it was like, yeah, there were so many puppies, can we just take one? So my dog had just passed away, was it last year? He was with us for 13 years. So even then, this was like 12 years ago, you can see that a lot of good has already been done. So this is the corridor restaurant. Interesting to note that my mother was a commissioner in 2010 already. 150-year-old school. I think it's a bit interesting to see which pictures my mother chose in her slide. She's working behind the scene. I remember her a bit panicking. She was telling me, what am I going to say? And they asked me to share, but I have to share. I think when we look into the faces of the volunteers, it is that of a lot of diligence and full of purpose. It's no piece of cake, but we're very grateful and happy for the opportunity. You know, as I look at this picture, I'm wondering where the kids are right now. 12 years has passed, and a lot of them would have been adults by now. Okay, this is them at another village. A village of 22 households share 2 common toilets. And we are also grateful most of us have our own personal toilets here in Malaysia. Yeah. A pig, their savings, and a typical hut. The villagers are encouraged to keep their surroundings clean. Town and country. And as I'm going through the slides at the moment and thinking about my mother's frame of mind, I'm just yeah, there's a lot of things to see now from my mother's eyes. I think these are local volunteers in Myanmar at that time. And as usual, we would get them to share before we say goodbye. My mom is very blessed that she has been in the right company in Penang City, that she's able to experience all of this. Goodbye, and thank you for the chance to create good ability. Oh, okay. So that is it. Oh, my mom's still not here. But you know, the interesting thing that I have, thank you so much, Sister Irene, you just texted me now. The company you keep is the company that will make you in the future. This is what Brother Joe shared last week. Whatever you bring forward from your previous life will have, no, it was Brother David, will have an influence on you but really what you make out of this life is the company you keep. So beware who you call your friends, and the company that you currently have as your circle of influence. And I'm very grateful to be in the right company. Okay, so that's actually it from me, but I do welcome anybody who has any questions for me about anything at all, based on what I have shared just now. Anyone? No.
Your sister Wai Fong.
Thank you.
Okay.
She's still at home.
And
I thank you, Sister Su Ching, for this wonderful presentation. Short yet powerful. I felt so kampung. Yeah, this plant one seed. Sometimes, yeah, I know as you are going through, I'm seeing it from the perspective of a mom. How a mom can influence the children to become one seed that eventually can plant more seeds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sharing stories from kids because I was with this, before you actually say those who know your struggle earlier with your daughter, because I remember that at one time I was with this and this actually was so worried about your daughter. And I wonder, wow, now I admire sister so much because this has planted the seed in your daughter, and the daughter also has germinate, the seed. And I'm thinking, praying, don't know when my daughter can, but I just have to be contented that at least I plant a seed in both my husband and daughter, and whether they can germinate this lifetime or not, I have to leave it to eternity. So, sister, how did you change your daughter? Would you like to share that?
I didn't. When the conditions are right, then life will take care of itself. You don't. My mother was always talking about me. She says, "Wow, you took 20 years to get to Tzu Chi, but better late than never, right?" One of the things about Buddhism is not to be attached to the outcome. You do what is right, and then after that you can to kind of let go, and let life take over, because whatever is right for the people that we love, who are we to say? It is their life, not ours. So you just have to keep doing what you need to do. And I was just whenever I write the summary for the week that has passed, in order to get the essence, I have to revisit the video again. And I heard what Brother Joe spoke about diligence. The first time I hear it, but this time I'm really listening in order to be able to draw out the essence. And he was talking a lot about being diligent and how we human beings normally say, I give up. It's too hard. And most of the time we would give up the thing that we need to put in effort the most, because the immediate and even in the short and the midterm, we don't see the effect, but the long-term repercussions are there if we somehow lose it. And that is really, really true. At the home front, sorry, that's my husband just waking up. At the home front, for me, I took up karate 6 years ago, and it took me 6 years to finally get my black belt. I took the grading only 2 weeks ago, and people ask, why does it take so long? My mother was saying, even studying for a degree doesn't take so long. But that's because I gave up in between. I thought it's enough already. I don't want to do it anymore. I didn't think of how it would affect me, or for a while I was just contented floating until I realized that what kind of example am I showing my children? There must be a destination to aim for. And then I pursued it again. But that is also very true when Brother Joe was talking about Tzu Chi activities and all that. It is designed for us to continue in our quest, that the learning never stops. So, and while I was being graded, one sensei came up to me and said that he asked me what my purpose was to go for this grading and to get that black belt. And I said, it's a destination. And he says, that's actually the wrong way to look at it. Your learning cannot stop just because you have arrived. Yeah. So I guess in a different perspective, just because we are commissioners now, or that we have arrived at a certain position in Tzu Chi, it doesn't stop. In fact, the diligence now has to be tuned up. There is a lot more work that we need to do for ourselves, yes, and the people that we influence. Yeah, I hope that I kind of answers your question in a roundabout way. Anyone else?
Yeah, Sister Su Ching, wonderful sharing. Yeah. Yes, right. Yes. Yeah, in May. Yeah. So coincidence, I was in Penang visiting Jing Shi Tang, and together with a friend to connect them regarding the construction of the new Tzu Chi Center in where's the new place? In Batu Kawan. Yeah, the Batu Kawan, the new.
Oh, okay.
Land, the new land, yeah, the 30 acres of land that Tzu Chi Penang has bought. So it's going to be a huge project, long-term huge project, encompassing all the missions of Tzu Chi, you know. So yeah, so I think while we were there, of course, I didn't know your mom was there to so-called host us. So I think she was, receiving us and guiding us, explaining to us the center and whatnot. And in fact, I was also a long time I have not visited Tzu Chi Penang. So when we were ushered to this place, we thought it was Jing Shi Tang, but actually it's not Jing Shi Tang. That one is the dialysis center, the new dialysis center. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. So your mom was there to explain to us. So I was very amazed with this new place, obviously. And of course, your mom did a fantastic job to guide us, host us, and not until you text me saying that, oh, that was my mom. Okay. Yeah. Then I saw, there's a resemblance. Yeah. Resemblance of, the feature of you and your mom, But like I said, I was very touched by what she had shared. And then, of course, I said she is fantastic, just like you. She can explain things very well and deliver a message very professionally. Yeah, so
She's more diligent than I am, or ever will be.
truly grateful, for what she has done, all this while.
Yeah.
And great sharing today as well.
Thank you. My timing is very off. I don't know why. Already so short only, but I guess the message is more important than the time spent. Hey, it's 7:15, and perhaps Dr. Joe, you're here already. Can I pass on the mic to you?
You could actually continue. I think it's
There's nothing to say anymore.
Perfectly okay. The time is 7:15, but really you can just continue. I'm fine. Yeah.
So
If there's any more questions that people want to ask or continue the exchange and discussion, I'm more than happy to participate as well. Thank you.
Well, I told my mom, I deliberately did not send her the picture, and I dropped her name from the title. So she didn't know what I was going to say. I just said that I'm sharing today, coming on, and she said definitely. So if I know my mom, if she cannot come on this morning, something must be up. So I apologize. I actually wanted to surprise her and put her on the spotlight, but maybe she knew that spotlight was going to be on her. But she's always had the spotlight on her, and she just didn't know it. I think she's very quietly doing her thing, and that is something that I really appreciate. I always thought that growing up, I needed to. My mother is so, what is the word for it? Passive. Yeah, and I wanted to be the opposite. I wanted to be more vocal. I wanted to be this and that. And I kind of spent my lifetime proving to the world that I'm not like my mom, but actually I'm so much like her. Not just in the way I look, but my love for gardening. And right now I'm also a part of Tzu Chi. So when we were sharing, now that I'm part of Tzu Chi and she is, and how do we influence people when it comes to donation and all that. But when I first started and I had to get my donors, I was kind of recalling what she did when she was recruiting donors. I realized that a lot of times she didn't have to force people, because all she needed to do was to continue her work, and people are kind of drawn to that. So if you're diligent and you just continue doing what you do best, donors will just come. Because I honestly believe, as she does too now, that people want to give, but if they trust you and they see that you are diligent with an organization for such a prolonged period of time, why wouldn't they want to donate to a place where you are doing good work? So for a lot of people, when they are asking me, how do you get donors? And I said, actually, talk about Tzu Chi, talk about the things that you do in Tzu Chi, and that's how you draw people to you. You don't have to go and reach out for them. They will be drawn to you if you're diligent enough. And that's something that I learned from my mom. So I've spoken enough, Brother Joe. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Sister Su Ching, and thank you, everybody. I think we're all influenced by our parents and our loved ones, our elders in the family a lot, and from Sister Su Ching, definitely from her mom's experience in Penang as a Tzu Chi volunteer, and I think it's the connection, it's the mother-daughter connection, and also the Tzu Chi Dharma family connection. Sister Su Ching, I have a question. So do you what do you call your mom? Do you call your mom sister, or do you call your mom?
Funnily enough, I call my mother mother.
Okay.
That's how proper we are. I call my father father.
But when you're out in the event, when you introduce her, this is
my mom.
This is my mom. Okay, so you're gonna, I mean, when you're on the stage, right? You wanted to introduce, or are you going to say, this is sister so and so, and this is also my mom? What are you going to say? Are you going to say that?
It hasn't happened yet, but I think I would probably address her in the way that she wants, and that would be Sister Kang. My mom.
Okay, okay. So I think that's it tells you this is something that I'm always fascinated with is if one day our parents are certified and master is calling them or calling me and say, oh, now you are brothers and sisters. I'm like, no, that's my father. we're not 师兄, we're not, that's not my 师兄, that's my father, or that's not, it's not the Dharma family. But however, I think that's the link. I think it's very true. And there's the blood link and there's the Dharma link. And I think that the wonderful thing about the Dharma in the family is that not only do you have this Dharma link, but you also have this blood related link. And I think that makes it even more extraordinary. I remember Master telling us the other day, we had this, it was a heartwarming session with Tzu Ching, the collegiate group. And they were saying, a lot of them right now, they were sharing how they got into Tzu Chi. And they got into Tzu Chi because usually it's because they're their parents. Okay, number one is their parents. Number two is their teacher. Their teacher, when they were in elementary school, uses Jingsi aphorism. They're part of the teachers group, and they took them to camp. Or three, they were part of the youth group when they were growing up. Their parents might not be Tzu Chi volunteers, but they were part of the youth group. So these are there are many reasons. And so when Master heard this, obviously Master was very delighted to know that the influence to reach out to the next generation was actually happening. And it took time. It took a long time for this to actually ferment and happen. But one of the things that Master said was that one of the story was how a teacher in our college, in our university, and how she said that her daughter one day, actually the professor in our university shared with Master that it was actually very difficult because she had to take her daughter, move to Hualien while her husband still stayed elsewhere because of the job and occupation reasons. And she had to convince him. And one day, all of this doubt were cast away because the daughter one day came home and shared to the mother, who is the professor at our university, and said that, Mom, you were always buying me new clothes, you're always buying me toys. Please don't buy me these things anymore and donate the money to 施工上人 because more people are going to need it. And the professor shared this story to Master, and professor said that I was so delighted. I said to my daughter, wow, you're so full, your heart is full of love. And the daughter responded, no, the love is not just in the heart, it's in every part of me, from the head to the toe. And everybody just started laughing. You can imagine how a 5-year-old kid said this to the mom, right? And so that's when, and so the daughter actually comes to the abode every week. Okay, and eventually right away showed up. Anyway, so Master said that the hardest ones, the most difficult people to persuade are actually the people that's closest to you, because they know you, they know who you are, they know what you do, they know all these things. And when you have this, when you have gotten the confidence and the acceptance of your family, that really means that it's really true. It's gotten to them. Okay, so the fact that your mom was able to spread and also share and also got all of you in this, it really meant that she really did this by example, and she really did this, and there was really a huge pull, and all of this was just to show that really trying to get your family into Tzu Chi isn't that easy. But if you really do what you need to do, you will be able to get it done. Just like what Sister Su Ching said, if you are diligent yourself, I think you're quoting your mom, but people will be drawn to you, right? It's not that you had to reach out to people. In fact, the bridges were all there. All you needed to do was to wave at them and they will come over. It's not like you have to build the bridges and then had to try to get people to come over. No, it's already there and they want to come over. They're just waiting for you to wave at them. And I think that really gives us something to think about.
You know what was interesting was a lot of my mom's donors during that time, before I joined Tzu Chi, were my friends. My mom told me stories and I told my friends stories, and they were drawn by not direct but indirect bridge. And those friends remain donors till today. And whenever their seed and conditions are right, it will germinate.
So it tells me two things. One, that you are a wonderful storyteller. That's why people are drawn to you, and they love to hear your stories. And two, your mom has the sights for good storytellers. So your mom knows that to give you a lot of stories because you're a good storyteller, and that's why you're able to share this with a lot of people. And that's ultimately important. And I think one other thing is that, but I think that to be able to go beyond just a storyteller is a story doer or a story creator, where you create that yourself, where you are not just a bystander, right? Listening to the Sleeping Beauty stories or the all these stories. You are just a onlooker, right? You read the stories just like any other people reading the story, but now you are a part of the participant. You are a participant in the story. You are a protagonist in the story. You are no longer just an onlooker. You're no longer just repeating a story. You are creating the story yourself. And I think that's where Master is pushing us toward, and where we can be more diligent, and people will be drawn to you because now you're speaking from experience. You're speaking from your heart. You're not just repeating a story where, oh, my mom mentioned this story and this is the good part. This is the good part. No, but because you know the story. So that's when I think it's a little bit, it goes the next level higher and the next level. Yeah. Okay. Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Sister Su Ching, and wonderful storyteller. And we know from all these past weeks that you're also a great summarizer. You summarize all of our stories. And because of that, you had to listen to the things many times. And I appreciate that. I think many people appreciate that because we always needed a summary to repeat what was said. And essentially, that's what I'm doing too. I'm repeating what was always said. And I'm also always repeating what Master says. And I think that it needs to be bounced back and forth. The same thing that was said the very first time you hear it was only there, right? It's on the surface. It's like the dust, or it's like the wind just blows over and it's on your skin and you feel it. You feel kind of chilly. You feel kind of windy. That's all you feel. But how do you get it to sink in? How do you get this, the wind blows the seed coming from a different place, and how does that seed get stuck and goes into the ground and goes into the soil and being able to grow into something? That needs time, and that needs affinity, and that needs a certain determination, so that you get to hear it 2 times, 3 times, and that allows you to have a little bit more and more in-depth feelings and also understanding. That's what I do, and I do this thanks to all of you. Is a push, because I need to come out with things. We need to share. That's why sharing is a very active way of being diligent, because you need to come up with something. I mean, we have a lot of things in our head, and if there is no push, there's no need to really organize it. Yeah, sure, go ahead and share, right? After in a dinner table, you can share, right? After a meal, you can share with your family and friends. But that doesn't require a certain type of organization. It doesn't need you to reorganize all the stories and figure out what are the main points you want to share. But because you have a sharing session, you need to begin to figure out, what do I say? And how do I say it so people understand, or at least people can resonate with what I'm saying? So that is, in a way, diligence. You are reorganizing, you are rethinking, you're trying to do your best to organize your thoughts and to make it clear so that when people hear it, even on the first time, they have a feeling and they are willing to do something more and be able to catch, out of the 100 things you want them to know, at least 2 or 3 things that they are able to catch. Right. So let me just begin sharing. I've continued on the part of the Lotus Sutra, and today is a little bit different. I wanted to use the next 30 minutes, not doing so much on the review part, because I always wanted to reiterate what was said before, because I think it's important to remember what was said. I would use a little bit of time to do that, to go into what was said before. But today I wanted to go into something more, something that was perhaps not talked about so much. And it came up when we were in our study group, and I was reading, and I had this question. And I had this question not because I was in doubt, but I had this question because I believed that a certain thing happened, and therefore I questioned it, not because I don't know, but I really believed it. And there was a discussion among the masters and also myself and other participants, and it was interesting. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. So obviously we begin once again quickly to reiterate what happened in this chapter, or in this time frame. Buddha got out of the meditation, and the first things that the Buddha said was that the wisdom was so profound that you, the listeners, you, the solitary realizers and the hearers, are never going to understand. Now, why did the Buddha say that? And I mentioned that it's time for change. This was Buddha's way to wake everybody up. Instead of saying that just do what you do now today is enough to continue for the remainder of Buddha's life, it's no longer enough. You need to change. We need to change. And these 2 sentences actually reflect 2 different sentiments. One is it's time for a change, because everybody was so fixed on that one thing that they were doing, and they were not progressing. They weren't getting anywhere. So it's time for change. But it's also too late for non-change, meaning that even if you want to change in the future, if the Buddha isn't there anymore, then maybe it's too late. Even when you want to change, it would be too late. So these are the 2 factors that are polling for some change to happen. It's time for change, and it's too late for non-change. So what was the change? There were many things that we discussed. The change of attitude. Buddha didn't talk about the change of material. It's not the change of material. It's not that you're going from elementary school to high school, to junior high school, and the material changed. Essentially, it's the same material, but you're just doing it better, right? Imagine that you are going from, I'm thinking about using sports as an analogy. In Taiwan, we are more focused on baseball. In Malaysia, probably football. But essentially, what that means is the tricks and all the skills you probably will attain in the first few years of your actual training, right? Whether you're talking about basketball, you're talking about football, you're talking about baseball. The first few years, right? You know how to hit, you know how to shoot your basketball, you know how to dribble, and you know how to dab with your, you know the basic rules about football, you know certain things, right? These are the very basic skills. So these skills don't change, but you get better at it. So that's what I meant by the Buddha isn't, it's not about Buddha all of a sudden giving you something new, but rather this is a change of attitude that the Buddha said that we should do, because it's not the new material. It's not like I'm teaching you calculus where you never learned calculus before. No, it's rather changing of thought process. For example, maybe this is a better example. I'm a computer scientist, so I do programming. This is when I was in my college years, and the first 10 years of my career, I was doing software programming. We were doing database, the engine. We're doing a lot of optimization, and there are many things that we do, right? So there are certain level of coding, and there are certain levels of designing, and what we do, we don't learn anything more. We have our skills set with our programming skills. We know how to do search. We know how to do sort. We know how to do all these little tricks and tools in our tool bag, in our toolbox. But how you put together the tools, that's the things we learn, and that's the things we experience. We try to experience and mix match different things, try to get something new out of something old. That's what we do. So in Lotus Sutra, this is essentially that. All the tools were already taught to you, to all the disciples by the Buddha. But now you need to have a change of attitude, look at it differently, and be able to use it differently, be able to use it in a more lively way. That's the change of attitude. But if you think that you know all the tricks in the book, you know all the tricks in the bag, then you're not going to advance, because you did not learn how to use it with purpose, how to mix and match, how to create something new out of the same tools and boxes, right? Imagine that the fire, all the elements essentially don't change since the 1950s or 1900s when the periodic table was first founded. The elements don't change, but why do we have all these new technology? Because the mixture is changed. The ways to utilize these elements are changed, the change of attitude. So that's the things that the Lotus Sutra was telling us, at least in chapter 2. So the tools that remain unchanged were all these, right? We went into detail about what these are, the 37 principles of enlightenment, and also the 10 strength and the 4 fearlessness. And it tells you that you need to go into the people, to the masses, to teach them, to share with them. And these are the things that we learned from before, right? The 4 fearlessness. Okay, so these are the tools. Now, what is the change of attitude? Okay, this is the part now we enter into the new part. The Buddha said stop, right? The Buddha stopped Shariputra without him saying anything. And if you want to go more, in fact, the Buddha stopped Shariputra 3 times. So in the story, or this is how the story goes, that the Buddha was expounding the Dharma, and in chapter 2, and without anybody responding or saying anything, the Buddha said, I'm going to stop now because I don't think you guys are prepared to hear this. Okay, so the Buddha stopped the first time. And then Shariputra, being the class president or the representative of the students, stood up and said to the Buddha, says that, please, Buddha, you really need to taught us, because all of us here, we're here to learn. And you told us how profound and wondrous the Dharma is. You can't stop here. We're all willing to learn. Then the Buddha stopped Shariputra again by saying that, no, you guys don't believe. And there are a lot of you that are, you basically just can't understand. Even if I tell you all these things, you're not going to understand. And then the Shariputra once again requested, begging the Buddha, please, even though we might not understand, there are future generations that will benefit from this. There are many, many people who are going to hear this in the future, and they're going to understand. And even if we don't, but I do believe that I can't, we can't, okay? And then the Buddha said, no, I am not going to, because if you don't understand this, then you are just going to defame or slander this Dharma. You're going to preach the non-truth because you don't understand. And that is bad for all of it, for all of you. And then Shariputra requested again for the third time, saying that we believe Buddha, even if it's something that's really hard to believe and understand. Look at all of us. We have been with the Buddha for lifetime after lifetime. We have been preparing our lives to listen to the truth Dharma that the Buddha is going to preach to us. We are ready and we are prepared. We are not going to slander the Dharma. We are not going to preach the wrong truth. We're here and we believe Buddha. It is upon the exchange between the Buddha and the Shariputra 3 times. First, stop. Then Shariputra requested, and Buddha stopped again. Shariputra requested, and the Buddha stopped again. Then Shariputra requested. 3 stops, 3 requests, and finally, the Buddha was willing to say, fine, you have requested 3 times. That show that you are sincere, and therefore I shall begin expounding the most profound and wondrous Dharma. And these are the story. This is the exchange that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And even if you're not familiar with, I hope that from what I just said, you get a better understanding, or you at least know of this exchange 3 times. The question that came out was, what was the time frame of such back and forth between the Buddha and the Shariputra? And this had never occurred to me. This had never occurred to me when I first heard this part in the Lotus Sutra. It had never occurred to me what the time frame was, because to me, it was a conversation. But when I was reading this again, I think that was a couple months ago, I was reading this 3 requests, this exchange. It became clear to me, my belief, that maybe the time frame isn't like our exchange, like our conversation, like the one that Sister Su Ching had with me or with you guys, with Brother Robert and the QA, or with Brother David with the QA, somebody asking, and then Brother David will be responding, and then somebody will be following up with the question. Maybe it's not that. I believe the more that I look into it, the more that I think about it, the more that I try to integrate it with my life, I really began to believe that the time frame is actually longer. Did it happen immediately, as in stop, ask, stop, ask, stop, ask? Or did it happen over a period of time? It could be a period of 3 days. It could be a period of 3 weeks. It could happen over a period of 3 months. We don't know. And as Master recently have been sharing with us, that the Buddha Sutra, the Buddha Dharma and the Sutra text itself was actually passed down by oral, by telling stories. And it wasn't even, it was even after years and years, hundreds of years after the passing of the Buddha, that the actual text was rewritten. And it also happened when Ananda was already very, very much aged. So many things had to come from Ananda's memory. And I think we all believe that Ananda had this wonderful, wonderful memory. And I believe that even if he did, there were bound to be things that were sort of lost in details. Many things were not as detailed as how it actually happened, because Ananda probably had only one single person point of view, right? At the same time, for example, right now, at this moment, we're sharing this online forum together, but the same thing is happening, right? Like, for example, today, the team is going to a school for a veggie promotion. And they are probably at the meantime, getting ready for schools, how they're going to share with the principal and the parents and the children about the vegetarian, the good things about the vegetarian, etc., the sketches. And so all these things are happening at the same time. But I'm sharing with you from my perspective, and you are on the same forum, but you have a different perspective. Same thing with Ananda. He was there at the time, but was he able to perceive all these different perspective? But in any event, this question really come up to me because I believe that in my experience with our master, there were many times when you had to ask the same thing many times. Because the very first time you ask, you don't get an answer, or you get an answer, but you know that there's something more to it. So you don't right away ask, because you knew that at that moment, asking the same question again isn't going to get you a different answer. In fact, I'm sorry, but this is from my experience. It's only going to make things worse if you keep on asking the same question. Master would be telling you, don't you understand what I'm telling you? And then you'll be like, oh, shoot, let me stop right now, right? So it's when I began to look into the story and then think about my interaction with Master, that when Master says something, no, I'm not going to tell you, and you kneel down, you ask as a disciple in your most sincerity, you ask your teacher, please teach us, please give us what we asked, what we requested. When the master told you no, and you request the first time, the master tells you no again. Usually for me, and I think I know when to stop. Because the more you ask, I remember a couple of weeks ago, I did the very same thing. In fact, I do this all the time. I requested if I could go to the US. There was something happening there, and I requested to go there on my own. That I knew that I shouldn't wait for a master to ask anyone to go, but I volunteered. And the very first time, master said that, no, it's with all the quarantine and all the virus, it's not convenient. And then I said that I gave my reasons again. And then master said, sure, you go there and nobody would be watching over you. You have the freedom to do whatever you want. And I knew if I continue pushing, nothing good is going to come out of it. So I stopped, right? You know that you should stop. But do you think that I'm going to stop asking? No, because the problem still exists. Or I think that I have, it's not that I'm the solution, but I think that we can try to do something, and there needs to be something that happens right now. So I will ask again, but just not right then. So this is when I believe that Shariputra and the Buddha, the back and forth did not happen immediately. Like, I don't ask 3 times right away. If I don't ask 3 times right away, then what happened in between? That's the question, right? If this happened over time, then what happened in between? I think this is the reason why I think this happened over time. Why? Because you need to build up your sincerity. I think what part of what Sister Su Ching sharing got to me was the part when Sister Su Ching mentioned about diligence, about how people are drawn to you because you're diligent. I think sincerity is the same thing. You don't prepare for sincerity. You don't just, oh, tomorrow I'm going to see Master, so today I'm going to bathe myself. And you see all these stories about how the emperor, the king, has to pray to the heavens for the rain and for the stopping of the war or stopping of the disease, and they would bathe themselves, they'll do all these things. But the true sincerity doesn't come because you have one day of preparation or even a week of preparation. It doesn't work that way. I think it builds up over time. So is sincerity. So I really believe that when Shariputra asked the very first time, and the Buddha's response was no, because you just wouldn't understand. Shariputra's idea was, let us show our master that we truly believe and we truly would love to hear the most profound Dharma. So the sincerity needs to work. For example, every night they would, probably, I'm just imagining things, right? You would go to the Buddha's study and you would kneel there for nonstop, right? We hear these stories, right? The sincerity doesn't just happen right there. You have to have some action. Like you beg, you go there, you show, and maybe for 2 weeks, you do this straight, right? You pray, you do all these things. You let the sincerity build up, not just within yourself, but with the group of people, right? Because the Buddha said you wouldn't understand. So it's not just me, Buddha. I am not speaking on my own behalf. I am speaking on behalf of all the brothers and sisters and all the disciples. So you need to also gather up the people, not just me. It's not a conversation between the Buddha and myself. It's between the Buddha and all the disciples. I can't bring the future generation to the present, but I will show the present that there are already a group of us and more people are joining in that really would hope and beg the Buddha will continue this very profound teaching. So I think that sincerity builds up over time. It doesn't happen like I ask the Buddha 3 times and right away you become more sincere. It doesn't happen. It's not like I ask 3 times immediately, and then the Buddha will go from, no, I don't think you're sincere, to, oh, I believe you're very sincere. I don't believe that. So I think that this happens over time. That's the first reason why I think that this back and forth didn't just happen like within a conversation. I believe that there were things that the Shariputra were trying to do. Shariputra would listen to the response of the Buddha and then make adjustments to show the Buddha, what are you worrying about? Let me show you, and let us show our teacher, the Buddha, that we can do this. So sincerity builds up over time. Next, the need builds up over time. I think the students also believe that it's time for a change. The time is now. It's too late for a non-change, but they don't know how. They don't know how to change. They also want to learn new ways, and they also want to learn new things. They want to be, the fire needs to be reignited. So the need for our master to give us the Dharma also builds up over time. So I believe that Shariputra was very, very diligent, not just in asking the Buddha for expounding the Dharma. I believe he also went to many, many people and explained to them the importance of this Dharma so that he can round up more people and said that, let us show our master that we are sincere and we are willing, and there is a very much need. So what I'm trying to say is that during this time, Shariputra also recruited, or at least conversed with many of the disciples and sharing with them that the time, it's too late for non-change and it's time for a change. So the need for a change and the need for a way to change our attitude is getting more pressing. Therefore, it takes time to build this up. Okay, so I really believe that Shariputra was the driving force to make this thing happen. Buddha stopped him and he requested again, and Buddha stopped him again. So he is thinking, what can I do? What can I do so that the Buddha would allow me to allow this to happen? So he rounded up his friends and colleagues and other disciples and explained to them how this is important. So more and more people feel the need, and more people see the need, and most importantly, the sincerity. So both of these things takes time to develop. Third, the understanding builds up over time. A lot of this is, if you want new things, you need to be able to understand the old things. You need to be able to see what the Buddha was saying. The Buddha was already very clear in saying that you don't understand. So what is it that we don't understand? Instead of saying, wait a minute, Buddha, we understand all these things. Like, this is what I've been saying all along, that the change of attitude. If somebody tells you that you don't understand something, if this person is your teacher, if your teacher tells you that you don't understand something, and your first reaction is, what are you talking about? I understand all these things. Then who is in the wrong? We are in the wrong. Instead, we should be thinking, what is it that I don't understand? So I believe that during this time, when the Buddha said that you don't understand, I believe that as a good and wise disciple that Shariputra is, he must ask around, asking other friends and asking other bodhisattvas that, what does the Buddha mean? Note that the Ananda would not have understood and would not have known what Shariputra was doing at the time, because Ananda was only by the Buddha's side. So he can recite, thus I have heard. Whatever the Shariputra was trying hard, he probably doesn't know and he probably doesn't understand. So this is where I come up with my thought that I believe this happened over time. I believe that Shariputra went around and asking people, and I believe that not just Shariputra, I'm sure there were many people that didn't understand what the Buddha said. So then they were gathering, they were conversing, they were sort of having a meeting and discussing, what did the Buddha actually mean? What was it that we don't understand? Instead of responding and telling people, I understand all these things, all these people got together and asked themselves, what is it that the Buddha, why is it that the Buddha said that we don't understand? So the understanding also builds up over time. They began to follow the track. The easiest thing to do is to follow what the Buddha said. Instead of fixated on the Buddha said that we don't understand, but rather, what else did the Buddha say? What else did the Buddha say? Did the Buddha say that we don't get something? Let's do what the Buddha says. That's what they did. They show sincerity. Okay. They show this sincerity and they show this understanding and they show this need. I need to know. We want to know. The need builds up. The understanding builds up. And lastly, urgency builds up. Like I said, it's too late for non-action. So maybe this is the part that it really confused me at first, right? Buddha said that, no, I'm not going to tell you. And then at the end, Buddha says, well, Buddha said, Master said that the Buddha need to do so because there was no time. Well, if it's only happening in the course of conversation, you don't have like, at 9:01, you feel that you're not ready. And then 9:05, you go like, oh, we don't have enough time. It doesn't work that way. So I believe that while Shariputra was preparing and gathering people to follow and to learn, the time also flew by. And the Buddha knew that he didn't have much time left. So I see that you are working hard, but I'm also losing time. You are working hard to gather up the sincerity, gathering up the understanding, but the time is also flying away. So I also cannot risk waiting for all of you to be prepared. I need to tell you what I need to tell you. So these are the 4 reasons. I'm sure there are more reasons, but these are the 4 reasons why I think the 3 stop and the 3 requests happen over time. Now, how long did it happen? I don't know. Is it 3 months? Is it 3 years? I don't know. However, I do believe it didn't happen just like in the conversation. It didn't happen because in the morning I asked, it didn't go. So then in the afternoon, I asked again. I don't believe that either. I believe that there was a time when you show sincerity. There was a time you show your sincerity by actually putting in the work to show that you really want to know, because the need to know and to learn increases. The urgency increases. That is why it took over. It happened over a period of time. So see, why do I care? Because when I put this story into my life, I start to think that it didn't happen that way. But imagine if I'm recounting something, if I'm sharing with you something that happened across a year, how fast would I be able to say it? Oh, it was first year I did this, and then the next year I did this. It happened in 5 seconds, because Ananda was reciting what happened. But if we didn't know, or if we weren't there, we would think that it happened just like that. But it was a process. So that's my sharing for today. And I hope that everybody can have a deeper, sort of a deeper appreciation of what the sutra told us and what the sutra was not able to tell us. We have to be able to fix it into our life, and then you begin to see more in the sutra, because your life, our lives are exactly that. Imagine your children asking you, Mom, can we do this? Mom, can we do this? Mom, can we do this? And if you are going to cave in right away, I'm sorry, then you're no Buddha, okay? But if your kids show sincerity, right? Mom, can I get something, right? And you say, no. And then you say, why? And you say, well, because the room is not clean. So then the kid begins to clean the room. Mom, can I do this? Well, no. Why? I cleaned my room already. Well, no, because the living room is not clean. Oh, then they clean the living room. How long did it take? It might take 2 days, 3 days. And then the mom might say, well, no, you have to show sincerity. Not just one time. You have to begin to do this every week. So after maybe 3 weeks, you show your sincerity. Mom will eventually buy you that PS5 that you've been asking for, right? So this works, but it didn't happen over time. If it just happened, it didn't happen over a course of conversation, right? If you are the type of mom that buys the kids PS5 just because I asked 3 times, then I'm sorry, you have no principle. No, I take it back. If you're the mom or the father that buys the kid PS5 because the kid asked 3 times, then let me tell you, the reason that this happened is because you wanted to buy that PS5 yourself. Okay. Anyway, that's the end of today's sharing. So thank you. That's for today, and we'll see each other next week. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brother Joe. Thank you for that. Actually, it just reminded me what Brother David and as well as yourself said last week, that in Buddhism, we're always not talking about the short term. It is not instant. This is not instant noodles. There are no shortcuts. There's no express class. And I guess that kind of frustrates a lot of people. It's not like you pray for something and then you get it immediately. You have to put in a lot of hard work, and Buddhism is a lot of hard work, but it's really, really worth it at the end of the day. Thanks so much for your sharing. Before we leave, let us just pay our respects and rise and pay homage to the Buddha. All rise, comes together. Brother Robert, you cannot rise up. You're driving.
Sister, let's just take photo.
Oh, take photo. Okay, after this, first bow.
First bow.
Second bow. And third bow. Thank you so much. Everybody turn on your camera so that I can take a photo, and yeah. Everybody turn on camera, don't leave yet. I can print screen. All right, do the best I can. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great weekend. Yeah, bye. See you next week.